beneath the twilight's ghostly veil.
Shadow in the smoke, ideas sparked by the gods he woke.
Before the steam of engines, before the gears of clocks, there was a name half heard on the winds. Heron. Or maybe not. For even the gods are sometimes careless with their introductions.
Alexandria, about 2,000 years ago, give or take a century or two. Something of a renaissance was taking place among the scholars and the great thinkers. Practical science was taking a prominent position in the culture, with innovations like the Antikythera mechanism appearing for the first time. In this singular era, a man known as Heron began creating inventions for patrons and temples.
In that city where scholars drank moonlight from scrolls, where the pharaohs towered like a second sun, rumors spoke of a mortal who could bend smoke to his will. They said he listened to the language of air and taught it to sing.
Virtually nothing is known of Heron. We only have his writings and the technical manuals he penned. But these writings were extraordinary. He originated mathematical formulae, designed wind, fire, and steam-powered devices, and undertook some of the very earliest research into the field that would become cybernetics.
One evening, the temple doors opened with no priest to pull the bolt. A globe of polished bronze began to spin, hissing like a serpent of Hephaestus. The crowd gasped. "Miracle!" they cried. But the gods only smiled. The miracle was mortal.
Many of Heron's inventions were created for the temples, wondrous applications of his scientific theories in creations that mimicked the powers of the gods. Priests could light a brazier outside the temple and cause the doors to swing open on their own. Statues of the gods could acknowledge the offerings of the faithful with a nod. Heron even created the first steam engine, the Eolipile, all powered by heat and pressure.
Children of Athens and merchants of the Nile gathered to watch plays where heroes moved without hands to guide them. Ropes hidden in bronze bones, counterweights timed like heartbeats. A wooden stage where gears became destiny.
Many of Heron's most remarkable inventions comprised some of the world's first automatons. Statues that could pour wine from self-filling jugs, a cart that could move goods without the benefit of an ass to pull it, and most spectacular of all, a small theater in which automatic puppets would act out well-known scenes from mythology, controlled by gears, ropes, and pulleys, fully programmable and self-propelled.
The pious approached the temple's fountain. A coin clinked, and holy water poured as if a nymph obeyed their silver offering. But behind the curtain lay valves and levers, a mortal trick fit for Olympus.
Heron is credited with creating the world's first coin-operated vending machine, a holy water dispenser for the temple. When a coin was dropped onto a weight within the device, a counterweight opened a valve allowing water to flow. After a certain amount was dispensed, the weight distribution allowed the coin to drop into a collection mechanism, halting the flow until another coin was donated.
Scrolls bloomed beneath his stylus. Diagrams of wind wheels, fire-driven engines, fountains that never ceased. Not prophecy, but blueprint. The mathematics of marvels. He signed them Mechanica, Numanica, and vanished back into the smoke.
Heron designed machines both extravagant and practical. In addition to the spectacles he conjured, he also designed wind-powered wheels and a water pump used by the earliest firefighters. The world's first syringe and a new type of thermometer. And a self-filling fountain, a kind of perpetual motion machine powered by water and gravity. He left us technical manuals, scientific treatises, and lecture notes, which is how we know of his genius today.
An eclipse darkened the year, 63 after the birth of the Nazarene, or so later scribes would guess. Did Heron stand beneath that shadowed sun? No one can swear it, for the man is missed, and only the works remain.
We can't even say for sure when Heron lived. Estimates range about 400 years, from 250 BC to 150 AD. The most compelling contemporary evidence seems to indicate that he may have observed an eclipse, which took place in 62 or 63 AD. But even that is uncertain, and we have no way of knowing his age at the time of the event. He could have been a child, inspired to pursue a life of science after witnessing such a miracle, or an old man who felt moved to describe the wonder of the heavens.
Centuries passed. Empires fell. Steam slept in scrolls while kings marched and forgot. Yet the breath of that hidden forge waited, patient as iron. The Brotherhood of Brilliance gained new members as time went on.
In Heron's time, his work wouldn't have been widely known. Only other scientists and their students would have access to his work, to preserve the mystery and illusion for the temples. As the millennia spun out, other inventors would study his research and observations. A genius from Vinci, who built his own automata and other marvels. Sharp minds in New Londinium, and brave architects in the New World, who refined and miniaturized Heron's creations into the steam-driven devices which powered the Industrial Revolution.
Now the world hums with turbines and pistons. Children of a forgotten whisper. Was Heron a man? A myth? Or simply the mortal through whom which the gods of inventions chose to speak? Only the hiss of steam remembers.
Heron may have been a pseudonym, or a pen name co-opted by a variety of authors. He may have been a well-known magician or an anonymous mastermind. He was the man behind the curtain, not merely pulling the strings, but designing, crafting, and blueprinting the mechanism that would one day help spin our world.
fairy danced her wings so frail.
You think you know who I am. A footnote to a machine that was never built. My father was called mad, bad, and dangerous to know. My mentor was called the father of computers. I'm called the first programmer. But maybe I was something else. Maybe I still am.
Augusta Ada Byron was born in 1815, the only child of celebrated but scandalous poet Lord Byron with his wife Lady Annabella Milbank. Lord Byron knew his brief experiment with domesticity was a failure by the time Ada was born, and fled his family and country a few months later. To Lady Annabella, his hereditary poetic madness could only be to blame, and she set her shoulder to the wheel of raising her daughter in a world bereft of stories and wishes.
Imagination is a dangerous thing. You are your father's child. We must guard against that.
Lady Annabella was herself an accomplished mathematician. She had truly loved her erstwhile husband, and been determined to save him. Her failure ever weighed on her mind. She could not have known that her daughter saw numbers through the eyes of an artist. A series of childhood illnesses left Ada in abysmal physical health. Migraines frequently interrupted her studies, and a case of measles at 13 robbed her of her ability to walk for 2 years. Her mind, however, remained agile and free, and she studied the greats of history as eagerly as she devoured the latest scientific articles. By the time she was presented at court at 17, her reputation cast a long shadow before her.
Young Miss Byron, isn't it? Mary Somerville. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm a great admirer of your father's work, though I confess I don't follow most of it.
Nor I. I fear my father mustn't have been much of a poet, but I must yield to those with greater wisdom on the subject than I.
I see you don't lack for your father's wit and charm. I have someone you simply must meet. Have you followed the work of Mr. Charles Babbage?
It was a time of revolution in mechanical and scientific theory. Charles Babbage stood on the leading edge, having been commissioned by the British government to build his difference engine, a sophisticated computing machine which could calculate complex equations.
Excuse me, if the engine can calculate values, can it not also manipulate symbols?
You understand this?
I see it. I told them what I saw. They said I was dreaming. I was indeed. But sometimes dreams are instructions. You just need the machine.
Ada did not entirely escape the shadow of scandal while at court, being linked to several young men in succession, and even being implicated in a failed elopement in 1833. However, by July 1835, she was spared further reputational damage when she made a love match with William King, 1st Earl of Lovelace. Herself a descendant of the extinct barony line of Lovelace, Ada was styled Countess of Lovelace. Mindful of her duty, she spent the next 8 years having and raising her 3 children.
You're up late every night. With Babbage again?
With the future.
My dear, you know that I love you, but sometimes it feels as though you're speaking Martian.
In 1843, Ada was commissioned by Babbage to write a translation to English of an article about his analytical engine, written by an Italian scientist. Like her mentor Mary Somerville before her, she not only translated it to English, but also into plain language. Her notes exceeded the length of the main article by 3 times, but her most lasting contribution was Note G, in which she writes a series of instructions for calculating Bernoulli numbers, considered by many to be the first computer program. But they were more than numbers. She writes,
"The analytical engine weaves algebraic patterns, just as the jacquard loom weaves flowers and leaves. It could create music, patterns, even poetry."
But it doesn't exist. The government won't fund it.
"Why? Then we built it anyway. If not in brass, then in thought." "The engine does not think, per se, but it is a bridge from logic to art, a mirror of the human mind."
She's mad. Just like her father.
she was the first to imagine general-purpose computing. Ada believed the analytical engine could be capable of composing music or creating art. She saw what no one else would for the next 100 years. She began gambling, believing mathematics could predict the unpredictable. Ada created an equation for predicting which horses would win, but it backfired spectacularly, and she was forced to go to her husband for help with her debts.
"You used me! You wanted a mouthpiece, not a partner."
You wanted to be more than you are.
"I already am."
All I wanted was for you to make something of yourself.
"I did." They built it, 100 years later. Machines that can think and feel. They used the patterns I left behind. I wasn't ahead of my time. I was simply out of sequence.
Ada Lovelace died in 1852 at the age of 36. She was largely forgotten until her notes were found by Alan Turing, who used them to build his bomb machine. Today she is remembered as the first programmer, but she was so much more. A visionary, a dreamer, the enchantress of numbers.
The vampire watched with eyes of night. The savior of mothers, he tried to fight. The savior of mothers brought truth to life.
In Vienna, 1840s, childbirth was a lottery. In some wards, 1 in 5 mothers never left alive. In 1846, Hungarian-born physician Ignaz Semmelweis joined the staff of Vienna General Hospital in the first obstetrical ward. The mortality rate in the first ward, staffed by doctors, was a horrific 10%. Semmelweis noted that the second ward, staffed by midwives, enjoyed a mortality rate of less than 4%. And he became determined to find out why.
Is it the climate? Perhaps the air is poisoned.
Then why only in one ward and not the other?
Medical theory of the day was strikingly limited, and the treatments were borderline barbaric. There was humor theory, which sought to treat childbed fever with bloodletting or castor oil. Then there was miasma theory, which blamed poisonous air. Semmelweis knew these couldn't explain the disparity in death rates, so he sought other explanations. Semmelweis considered several variables: bad air, birthing position, even whether the priests passing through to give last rites were shocking the women to death. Nothing seemed to make a difference. Finally, the eureka moment. A colleague died unexpectedly of sepsis after being injured whilst performing an autopsy. Semmelweis realized that the clinic's doctors also performed autopsies and then often went straight to the delivery room.
They carried death on their hands.
Semmelweis proposed that there were some unseen cadaverous particles which the doctors were unwittingly transmitting from corpses to living women.
Invisible poisons? Ghosts?
No, particles of decay. Wash your hands, and the mothers will live.
His method was simple. Doctors should wash their hands in a chlorinated lime solution immediately before attending to any patient. The deaths plummeted from nearly 10% to barely 1%. Incredibly, rather than praise his discovery and results, Semmelweis's colleagues were mortally offended that he would suggest they had unclean hands, or that it was their actions bringing deaths. From their perspective, they were life-bringing gentlemen saviors, far above the death and decay in which they worked daily.
You shame our coats, Semmelweis. Medicine is not superstition. We'll base our treatments on centuries of theory, not these evil fairies you imagine.
It is science. Look at the numbers.
But the establishment refused. To admit Semmelweis was right was to admit they had killed thousands. As difficult as it is for us to understand today, doctors thought of themselves as lords, and being infallible was more important than saving lives. He fled Vienna in disgrace, returning to Budapest, where he ran a small maternity clinic. There, within months, he brought the mortality rate down to almost nil. In some years, there were no childbed deaths in Semmelweis's ward, a record that would be considered the gold standard in hospitals even today. His time in Budapest was a very satisfying period in his life. Ignaz Semmelweis eventually married beautiful Maria, daughter of a wealthy merchant, with whom he would have 5 healthy children. His results were real. His method enjoyed unparalleled success, but the medical establishment continued to mock and misunderstand him. Eager to get the word out, Semmelweis penned pamphlets and articles rather than books or scientific journals. Unfortunately, this led to a grave misunderstanding of his work, and his methods failed to be widely adopted. By the time his book was completed in 1861, the ridicule had reached a fever pitch. His temper grew fierce, his words bitter. His friends and allies withdrew from him.
Ignaz, your fury drives them away.
Their pride kills women. I will not be silent.
In July 1865, Ignaz Semmelweis was invited by colleagues to tour a new psychiatric facility in Vienna. He was looking forward to the opportunity to speak with Viennese doctors again, hoping to share his latest findings. But when he got to the asylum, it immediately became clear that he was there to be committed. Semmelweis, sensing the danger, bolted for the door in an effort to escape. He was captured by the guards, injuring himself in the struggle. 2 weeks later, Ignaz Semmelweis died of septic infection, the very disease he had spent his life attempting to eradicate. But 20 years later, Louis Pasteur would see bacteria under a microscope, proving the novel germ theory circulating in the medical community. Shortly afterward, Joseph Lister would revolutionize surgery by demonstrating the effectiveness of sanitizing instruments. The medical establishment was catching up to Semmelweis's findings and method. Today, sanitization is the foundation of medicine. It would be unthinkable to attend a patient with contaminated hands or instruments. He arrived too early at the truth, but truth always catches up. Ignaz Semmelweis is remembered as the savior of mothers for his crucial research into sanitization and infection prevention.
A bond was born in silver light.
In the years between wars and wonders, there lived a man who spoke 9 languages, ran marathons through the mountains, and uncovered the secrets of civilizations long lost. By age 22, John Pendlebury was already an impressive athlete and scholar of great renown. Naturally curious from a young age, Pendlebury lost an eye at the age of 2, studied Egyptology as a childhood hobby, and distinguished himself at both Winchester and Cambridge. He earned athletic blues in track representing Cambridge in 1926-27 and competed in qualifying trials for the 1924 Olympics. His reputation won him admission to the British School at Athens.
Excuse me, Professor Evans. I think you've made a mistake. You stated that Akhenaten's son, Tutankhamun, was named to honor the god Amun. But I think the latest excavations show that he was named Tuntak-Aten by his father to honor the god Aten, and later changed his name when he became pharaoh.
Indeed, my boy. We will cover recent discoveries later in the course. I advise you to cultivate your patience.
You won't do yourself any favors alienating the faculty.
Dear lady, one must possess faculties to serve as faculty. An earnest educator would thank me for correcting his error. John Pendlebury, by the way.
I know. Hilda Whitehall. So it's true then? They said young Pendlebury likes to live dangerously.
My dear, you have no idea.
You there, get down.
I am Persian.
Young man, as your advisor, I must tell you, I am very concerned about your course load. I understand that you've chosen to specialize in both Greek and Egyptian archaeology. I must warn you that this is overly ambitious, even for you.
I have only one life in which to get everything I want, Mr. Evans. What seems ambitious to you is merely thorough to me. I intend to compile a catalog of Egyptian artifacts found in the Greek region.
You've just married, haven't you? Why don't you slow down and savor all that married life has to offer?
I will take that under advisement, sir. I do believe the old boy Evans has finally discovered his faith in me. Psst. Here, lad. Who is that woman?
Her? That's Marika.
Careful, sir. Don't eat too many seeds or you will never leave here.
Why would I ever want to leave? A man could spend the rest of his life in such a place.
After arriving at Knossos, Pendlebury launched a series of ambitious restoration projects. He began creating an academic library of artifacts at the Villa Ariadne. He set about clearing the ruins and the surrounding farmland, working closely with the villagers of Crete to reclaim the badly neglected areas. And he continued the archaeological excavations at the site, frequently joined by Arthur Evans, with whom he maintained a close, cordial, but often tense partnership.
We got rid of Evans. Thank the Lord.
After a year as director at Knossos, Pendlebury found himself summoned to Cairo in Egypt. The curator of Amarna had resigned without notice, and the Egyptian authorities were desperate for a replacement.
Mr. Pendlebury, we know what exciting work you're doing at Knossos, but you are earnestly needed at Amarna. We are in dire need of someone of your talents.
Excellent. 2 kingdoms, twice the trouble.
But we didn't mean, Mr. Pendlebury, surely you cannot oversee both.
Why ever not? I can excavate Amarna in the winter, Knossos in the spring, and take the summers off.
So this Akhenaten, he was a monotheist? Do you suppose his Aten could be similar to the god we know today? Perhaps this story is related to the Exodus from our Bible, or...
Those are certainly interesting theories, Nora. But ours is not to theorize. Ours is but to analyze.
Excavating at Amarna was a dream come true for Pendlebury. He and his team discovered grand stone doorways and a beautiful stone lintel at a site known as the House of Hatiai, overseer at ancient Amarna. As a bit of a lark, they created what would come to be an invaluable photographic record. They created a video showing one of the Egyptian laborers walking through the restored stone doorways of the site as though he were Hatiai. In the years since, the site has been almost completely lost to erosion, making this in situ record unique and priceless. Pendlebury uncovered remarkable treasures from the Amarna period, and he wasn't averse to showing them off with a cheeky pose. Though she was busy raising their 2 children, Hilda often joined him, indulging her own passion for archaeology. One Christmas, Pendlebury held a games day for the local children of Amarna, guiding and encouraging them as they competed in races of all varieties.
You were hired to excavate, not gallivant across the empire. No more outside projects.
I understand perfectly, sir. I will seek my adventure elsewhere.
Pendlebury had done great work at Amarna and Knossos, but it was time to move on. The advent of war at home made his choice clear. In July 1939, Pendlebury enlisted in the British Army and was immediately recruited by the intelligence service. To his great satisfaction, he found he would be deployed to Crete.
It is well known that Hitler covets archaeological artifacts, especially from early European empires. We already have intel that he is planning an invasion of Crete. You're the only one who knows every path, every gorge, every man worth arming. We need Crete defended from the inside.
Then I'll need a bigger notebook.
Pendlebury undertook his mission with gusto, ranging through the mountains to reconnect with brave men of Crete, hiding weapons caches throughout the countryside, training Cretan resistance fighters to sabotage and vanish, and sketching attack routes as he went.
My brothers and their friends have broken into the museum and taken some of the rifles from the Crimean War exhibit. I hope you don't mind.
Mind? It's bloody brilliant! Tell the strongest and surest to arm up and report to me for training.
Wire Pendlebury at once. The invasion is coming in mid-May.
Onward, men! We have them on the run! Let them come. I have room on my dance card.
On May 22nd, 1941, John Pendlebury was executed by Nazi forces. As Pendlebury fell, so Crete was eventually lost. Having lost the momentum of the early resistance, Greek forces surrendered on May 30th. But Pendlebury and the Cretan defenders may have ultimately facilitated the Allied victory. Historians note that Hitler mistakenly believed paratroops to be ineffective and redeployed the survivors as part of a Soviet ground invasion which would face humiliating defeat. In contrast, Allied forces saw the paratroops' potential, later using them to devastating effect at Normandy.
Who makes you perceive 1,000 sparks? It's all supreme frequency queen. Yeah.
Hedwig Kiesler was born in Vienna, Austria in November 1914. Her father was a highly respected banker, and her mother was a noted pianist. Her parents also had Jewish heritage, although her mother had converted to Catholicism, in which she raised her daughter. Young Hetty was entranced by the theater from a very early age. But her greatest joy came in learning about technology and electronics with her father.
See, Hetty, machines have a rhythm, like people. You listen carefully, they tell you how they want to move.
Then maybe I can teach them new dances.
In an act of teenage rebellion, Hetty got herself a job at Austrian silent film powerhouse Sasha Film, which she parlayed first into 2 small film roles before transitioning into a successful theatrical turn.
You call that tea? In Nashville, we'd drown a donut in something stronger.
After a stunning performance in the Max Reinhardt production of The Weaker Sex, Hetty found herself whisked off to Berlin, where she was suddenly the young woman on everyone's lips.
That girl's face could start a war.
And don't get me started on your coffee. It
It's so weak it ought to come with a lifeguard.
One man in particular watched hungrily from the shadows. Shady arms merchant Fritz Mandel became obsessed with Hetty and determined to make her his bride. Mandel had strong ties with European fascists through his business, which caused Hetty's parents to oppose the match due to her Jewish heritage. They finally relented after learning that Mandel himself had Jewish heritage, a fact he would conceal in order to cement his alliances. As Mandel's wife, Hetty had a front row seat to the dark world of arms deals. Fritz paraded her like a trophy of war, showing off his beautiful young wife to impress his associates. He had no inkling of the mind behind that face, or that Hetty was analyzing and memorizing every diagram and schematic she saw.
With my factories, no army in Europe without gunners.
Guns are not the problem. It is our torpedoes that need refining. All of their might can be nullified in an instant with a simple radio jammer.
Gentlemen, you have no need of torpedoes if your enemies never reach the sea. My guns will give you the most vicious invasion force the world has ever seen.
And your wife, she's more dangerous than your cannons.
In 1933, Hetty appeared in a Czech art film called Ecstasy. The film was celebrated in continental Europe as a bold artistic endeavor, but it was seen as scandalous in America and banned in Berlin. Mandel was furious that his wife had become a sex symbol and forbade her from acting. She became a virtual prisoner in her palatial home.
Now, Hedwig, don't fret. You'll have plenty of entertaining to do at home. It's time to put away this childish acting fantasy and begin behaving like a proper lady.
Lady? I would think a lapdog more to your taste.
After 4 years, Hetty seized her chance at freedom. She slipped a sedative into her maid's tea, disguised herself by changing into the maid's uniform, and slipped away, cloaked and hooded, into the night. Renouncing her Austrian citizenship, Hetty fled stateless, first to Paris, then to London, and then finally on to New York via ship. She caught the eye of another passenger, Hollywood magnate and MGM co-founder Louis B. Mayer.
Beautiful women are a dime a dozen in my business. I see women like you every day.
There are no women like me.
We'll have to do something about your name. No studio is going to book the star of Ecstasy. How do you like the name Lamar?
Hetty Lamar landed in Hollywood with an enormous splash in 1938. She immediately had a hit with the film Algiers, and soon audiences couldn't get enough of the most beautiful woman in the room. What almost no one realized was that she was often the smartest person in the room as well. Hetty had a string of hits with Boomtown and Comrade X in 1940, followed by Ziegfeld Girl in 1941 and White Cargo in 1942. But these roles placed her allure in the spotlight rather than her acting talent. None of it compared to the joy she found in a box of wires and a soldering iron. The advent of war in the U.S., this time against the very fascist she'd escaped from, renewed her interest in the machinery of battle. But Hetty was about to meet the one man who could see through the glitz to the razor-sharp wit beneath. George Antheil was a pianist and experimental composer. He was experimenting with a method of switching the rolls on player pianos to synchronize the sound.
Wait, say that again? The piano, with the rolls and the switching.
You mean synchronization? Why?
Because torpedoes need the same thing. If we could make their signals hop, no enemy could jam them.
Hetty and George, flooded with inspiration, went straight to work. Hetty realized that the frequency of a torpedo's firing signal could be encoded between the control center and the device by hopping the signal through a range of frequencies. They selected a range of 88 frequencies, analogous to the number of keys on a piano, effectively generating an unbreakable code system.
You're saying a torpedo and a piano could dance the same tune?
Exactly. Spread spectrum, frequency hopping, the music of war.
Hetty and George were a dream team of imagination and technological know-how. They worked feverishly to perfect their invention. Finally, triumphant, they succeeded. The dream team was ready to present their work to the people who needed it, the U.S. Navy. Yet, brilliant as the invention was, there would always be people who couldn't see past Hetty's looks to her brilliance. And those people were usually the ones in charge.
With respect, Miss Lamar, you should stick to selling war bonds if you want to serve this country.
And what do you suggest, Commander? That beauty and brains don't mix?
The Navy thanks you for your service. Good day.
Furious as she was, Hetty did want to help the U.S., so selling war bonds she did. Reluctantly, she filed away her patents and diagrams and focused on her film career. In 1945, the Allied forces claimed victory in the war, and in 1950, Hetty starred in her most successful picture, the biblical epic Samson and Delilah. In 1953, Hetty Lamar became a U.S. citizen. In her spare time, she continued inventing, including a new type of traffic light and a food additive that would instantly turn a glass of water into a soda pop. In 1960, Hetty was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Fame fades fast. 6 marriages, courtroom battles, whispers in the tabloids. Hetty's career was well and truly in decline, and she retired to live a quiet life. She looked back fondly on her careers, both as actress and inventor, but it seemed that the world had forgotten. Behind the scenes, though, Hetty's invention was just beginning to be discovered. As the Cold War spun out across the decades, scientists working on communications realized the incredible potential of her system for secure, long-distance transmissions.
Forgotten? Oh, I don't think so. I think they meant classified.
Stars on Hollywood sidewalks were fine and good, but in 1997, the Electronic Frontier Foundation finally gave Hetty the recognition she craved. In advanced years and declining health, Hetty would be unable to attend.
Miss Lamar, you've won!
took you long enough.
Her 1942 patent became the foundation for Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth. Hedy Lamarr died in 2000 at age 85. Today, she is remembered both for her unparalleled success as an actress and for her contribution to modern technology.
See